In the 1960s, many Christian families raised kids, paid bills, gave faithfully, and still lived on one income, one paycheck. No constant panic. So what changed? This countdown breaks down the 22 habits that made it possible. From the small everyday choices to the one rule that shaped everything. Stay for number 10 because it explains the modern expense that quietly wrecks budgets. And do not miss number 1 because it is not a money trick. It is the reason their homes felt calmer than ours. Starting with number 22. Number 22, a smaller house with less to feed. A smaller home is a quiet raise you do not have to earn. A lot of homes were simply smaller, and nobody treated it like an emergency. The rooms were used, not curated. The couch had a sag in the middle. The kitchen table was scratched in the best places. The hallway was wide enough for kids to sprint through it, even when they were told not to. When the house is smaller, the house asks for less. Less furniture, less paint, less carpet, fewer repairs that turn into big checks. Even the heating and cooling stay calmer because the space is not begging to be rescued from the weather. But there was a hidden gift too. People stayed close. You heard the front door open. You heard laughter bounce off the walls. You overheard grown-up conversations you were not supposed to hear. And somehow, you learned from them anyway. A bigger home can be wonderful, but a smaller one can feel like a steady anchor. And outside that anchor, the next money-saving choice was often sitting in plain sight. Number 21. One car that set the whole week. One car forced planning, and planning saved money. One car was not a sob story. It was just the rhythm. Dad drove it to work, Mom planned around it, and kids learned early that you do not always get everything instantly. Errands got bundled. Grocery day was a real event. If you needed the post office, the hardware store, and the pharmacy, you did not do 3 separate trips. You made a list and did it all at once. The week had a shape because transportation had limits. And when limits exist, community becomes practical. A neighbor might offer a ride to Bible study. Someone from church might pick you up for choir practice. Nobody acted like asking for help made you weak. It made you human. No second payment hovering over the budget. No extra insurance. No extra maintenance surprises waiting to bite. It was not flashy, but it was steady. And that steadiness showed up in the kids too, especially in what they wore. Number 20, hand-me-down culture. No apology. Kids wore history, and nobody acted embarrassed about it. Hand-me-downs moved through families like a friendly current. A shirt started with an older brother, then landed on a younger cousin, then ended up on the kid next door. A jacket might still smell faintly like the last owner's laundry soap, and nobody cared. These were for living, not for proving. Knees got grass stains. Elbows got worn thin. A mother patched a rip while talking about supper. A father folded a hymn like it was normal life. And the kid wearing those pants still ran outside like nothing was missing. There is freedom in a home where new is not the goal. When a family stops chasing the newest thing, the budget stops getting chased too. It also taught children a quiet lesson. Being cared for matters more than looking impressive. If you're smiling at this part, you're going to love the rest of this countdown. You're definitely in the right place here. And once the clothes were handled, you usually followed the best smells in the house. Straight into the kitchen. Number 19. Supper. Built from staples, not convenience. The pantry did the heavy lifting before the paycheck had to. Dinner did not need a spotlight to be good. Meals started with staples beans, rice, flour, potatoes, onions, seasonal vegetables, and whatever could stretch without falling apart. The kind of ingredients that sit patiently on a shelf and wait for you to do something smart with them. You could smell supper coming long before it hit the table. A pan warming, a little butter melting, a pot settling into a slow simmer while someone moved around the kitchen like they had done it 1,000 times. And meals came with a calm kind of structure. Soup one night, sandwiches the next. Something baked on Sunday that turned into leftovers on Monday. A roast might last long enough to become a second meal and still taste like a win. Quick question. Did your family have a night where everyone complained about leftovers, but still cleaned their plate anyway? That habit of stretching a meal was not rare. It was common sense, and common sense showed up again when something broke. Number 18. Fixing things before replacing them. A wobble did not mean throw it away. It meant hand me the screwdriver. A loose chair leg did not trigger a shopping trip. A toaster that stopped working did not automatically get tossed. Someone tried to fix it first, quietly, patiently, like the house was worth the effort. You could hear it happening. Tools clinking in a metal box, a drawer opening, a little grunt of concentration. A father tightening a hinge, a mother sewing a seam while the radio played low. Repairs were not dramatic. They were routine. That routine saved money in the sneakiest way. A family who repairs instead of replaces keeps their paycheck from leaking out in 100 small purchases. It also trained a mindset. You stopped seeing everything as disposable. Problems felt solvable. Even kids learned it. When you grow up watching adults fix things, you grow up believing life can be fixed too. And once repair became normal, spending became clearer, which leads straight into the next habit one that kept money honest. Number 17, cash envelopes that made spending real. If you could not hold it, you did not spend it. Many families used cash. Envelopes. Groceries in one, gas in one, school needs in one. Maybe a little extra envelope for something fun if the month allowed it. It created a calm kind of clarity. You knew what you had. You did not need an app to tell you. When the envelope was thin, you got careful. When it was empty, the answer was simple. Not this week. Picture it for a second kitchen table, pencil, a small stack of bills, a worn checkbook nearby, coffee cooling in a mug that had been in that cabinet for years. No panic, just decisions made on purpose. That system also protected families from impulse spending. A shiny idea at the store did not automatically become a purchase. You had to choose, and choosing slowed you down. That slower pace did something beautiful. It kept the paycheck from disappearing before anyone knew where it went. And the same choose on purpose mindset showed up in the way kids lived inside the home. Number 16, shared bedrooms that built toughness. Sharing a room saved money and taught patience at the same time. Kids shared rooms like it was normal life. Brothers in one space, sisters in another. Sometimes beds were close enough that you could hear your sibling breathing when the lights went out. It meant fewer bedrooms, which often meant a smaller house, which meant fewer bills, which meant more peace. But the real impact went deeper than a floor plan. Children learned to coexist. They learned how to whisper when someone else was sleeping, how to negotiate whose turn it was to use the mirror, how to fall asleep even when someone was flipping through a comic book one page too loudly. Privacy existed, sure, but closeness was the default. You grew up with a sense that family life was shared, not separated. And when families were not chasing more and more space, they had less pressure to chase more and more stuff. That included clothing, which was chosen for lasting, not likes. Number 15. Clothes built for years, not moments. A good jacket was expected to survive childhood. A winter coat was not a seasonal trend. It was a companion. Pants got patched at the knee and worn again. Sunday clothes were hung carefully and reused week after week like a trusted friend. You could feel the sturdiness in the fabric. Buttons stayed on because someone took the time to sew them back. Hemlines got adjusted as kids grew. A belt softened with age instead of being replaced. There was also a quiet pride in looking respectable without constantly buying new. Clean clothes, neat hair, polished shoes on Sunday morning. Not because anyone was trying to show off, because you represented your family, your church, and your values. Myth bust moment. This was not misery, it was discipline. Discipline has a way of protecting joy. Now, if you want a real retention jolt, imagine this. Nobody had a drawer full of unused outfits just in case. They had what they used. And with that kind of simplicity, Fun did not have to be expensive to feel full. Number 14. Fun that was free and still felt big. The best entertainment did not come with a receipt. Kids played outside until the streetlights came on. Adults sat on porches and talked long enough for the evening air to cool. Music came from a radio. Games came from imagination and whatever was already in the yard. A trip to the park could fill an entire afternoon. A picnic was a blanket, sandwiches, and laughter. A board game could start a friendly war that lasted for hours. Even walking to a nearby store felt like something to do. Church life helped too. Potlucks, choir nights, youth gatherings, volunteer days. Community created a calendar without draining a budget. Here's a quick mini scene. Sunday afternoon, shoes kicked off. The house quiet in that post-church way. A fan turning slow, and somebody humming while dishes clink in the sink. That kind of fun felt rich because people were together. And when people are together, one income stretches further, especially when community is not just social, but practical. Number 13, church community that shared the weight. A strong church made life lighter. A healthy church did more than fill pews. It filled gaps. Babysitting got shared. Meals arrived when someone was sick. Rides were offered without making it awkward. Someone's husband fixed a squeaky door for a widow down the street. Someone's wife taught a new mother how to stretch a grocery list without feeling ashamed. Kids got hand-me-downs without anyone making it weird. Help moved quietly, like it belonged there. When the community notices you, problems do not grow in isolation. A family hit a rough patch, and someone showed up with a casserole dish and a calm voice. Nobody needed a speech. Care itself did the talking. One of the biggest hidden costs in modern life is doing everything alone. When you have to pay for every need, every time, money disappears fast. Back then, many families did not live like islands. They lived like a body, each part helping the others function. And outside the church walls, the neighborhood often ran on the same kind of quiet exchange. Number 12. Neighbors who traded skills like currency. The neighborhood was a toolbox, not a marketplace. Someone could fix a sink. Someone could hem a dress. Someone could cut hair in a kitchen chair and still have you looking sharp for Sunday. Favors moved back and forth like they were normal. A bag of garden vegetables might turn into help repairing a fence. Watching someone's kids for an afternoon might turn into a ride to the store the next day. It was not formal. It was not recorded. It was simply understood. We help each other. That kind of life keeps small problems from becoming expensive ones. It also builds trust, which has its own kind of value. When you trust the people around you, you do not panic as quickly. A lot of modern living turns every need into a service. A service becomes a bill. Bills pile up. Stress rises. Those older neighborhoods protected families from that pileup. And another protection came from something simple that people rarely count: fewer monthly charges nibbling away at the paycheck. Number 11. Fewer bills with their hands out every month. The paycheck had room to land. A lot of families had fewer recurring expenses. No endless subscriptions. No constant upgrade fees. No piles of add-ons that seemed small until they stacked up into something heavy. The telephone did one job. The television had fewer channels. The house did not demand new gadgets every year. Life felt quieter, less buzzing, less pulling, less, you need this now. That meant the paycheck could actually stay a paycheck for longer than a few hours. It did not instantly evaporate into a dozen automatic charges. Here's a quick question to break the rhythm. If you could cancel every little monthly charge in your life right now, how much breathing room would you feel by next week? In those older homes, simplicity was not a trend. It was normal. And when life stays simpler, families can make smarter choices about location and work. Because commuting can quietly steal both money and peace. Number 10. Living close enough to keep life steady. Less driving meant less bleeding. Many people lived closer to where they worked, or worked closer to where they lived. Towns and neighborhoods were often built around local jobs. local stores, and local routines. Less commuting meant less gas, fewer repairs, and fewer surprise costs hiding in the car. It also meant more time at home, which is a form of wealth people forget to count. More time meant more family dinners, more time for church commitments, more time to fix things before they became crises, more time to breathe. Long commutes do not just drain money, they drain energy. Tired people spend differently than rested people. When you feel stretched thin, convenience starts to look like survival, and survival gets expensive fast. Those families protected their margins by protecting their time, and you could feel the same protect the margin mindset in something as ordinary as temperature. A little click of the thermostat, and then everyone adapted. Number 9. Comfort expectations that did not run the house. Comfort was shared effort, not a perfect setting. People did not expect the house to feel identical in every season. In winter, you wore a sweater. In summer, you used a fan. Windows opened when the breeze was kind. Curtains closed when the sun got stubborn. There was a toughness in it, but not the angry kind. More like quiet flexibility. The kind that says, we can handle a little discomfort without falling apart. A cool bedroom at night meant you pulled up an extra blanket. A hot afternoon meant iced tea, shade, and somebody fanning themselves with a church bulletin while laughing about it. That mindset saves money, yes, but it also saves attitude. When you stop demanding perfection, you stop paying premium prices for it. Now, comfort can become a constant drain, and small discomforts can feel unbearable. In those older homes, adapting was normal. And when a family can adapt in small ways, they can adapt in bigger ways too, especially when enough stays clearly defined. Number 8, a definition of enough that stayed put. Enough was a finish line, not a moving target. A lot of families knew what enough looked like. Not luxury, not perfection, just stable, deep, peaceful. Food on the table, bills paid, kids cared for, clothes clean, a little saved when possible, a little given when needed, a home that could breathe. That mindset acted like a guardrail. It kept people from turning every desire into a need. It slowed down the chase. It made contentment feel normal instead of rare. And there was relief in that. When you stop chasing the newest thing, you stop measuring your life against strangers. You start measuring it against your values. Here's a small pattern break. Think about the phrase, keeping up. Who were they keeping up with back then? Usually, nobody. A stable home was the goal. A calm home was the prize. And that guardrail got even stronger when pride showed up at the door with a sales pitch. Because many families carried a quiet rule about debt that kept them from buying stress on purpose. Number 7, saying no to debt that only served pride. Payments that strangers rarely bless a family. There was a principle in many homes. Do not take on a payment just to look successful. That kind of debt did not feel wise. It felt like a trap dressed up as normal. So families waited longer. They upgraded slower. They drove what they had. Furniture stayed until it truly could not do its job anymore. Holidays stayed simple without losing their joy. This was not about never borrowing. It was about refusing to borrow for applause. When you avoid debt built on pride, you avoid the kind of pressure that keeps you up at night. You protect your peace. And peace was treated like something worth protecting. Now, normal has become expensive, and pride can hide inside ordinary purchases. It whispers that you deserve an upgrade right now. It says everyone else already has it. Back then, waiting was not framed as deprivation. Waiting was framed as wisdom, and wisdom had a partner in the home. Someone making one paycheck stretched through planning, skill, and steady love. Number 6, a household manager, pencil, and a plan. One paycheck worked because someone stewarded it like a mission. Behind one income, there was usually someone stretching it with intention. Grocery lists were planned. Meals were thought through. Clothes were mended. Leftovers became lunch without fanfare. Picture payday at the kitchen table. A pencil moving slowly. A mug of coffee cooling. paper bills in tidy stacks, a quiet focus that felt almost holy, not because it was dramatic, because it was steady. That steadiness protected the family from chaos. It kept money from leaking out through tiny gaps. It also kept the week from becoming a string of emergencies. This was work, real work, the kind that keeps a home peaceful even when money is tight. And when a home is peaceful, spending slows down naturally. Here's a quick rapid-fire pattern interrupt before we go deeper. One car, shared rooms, repaired clothes, planned meals. Which one feels the most impossible to people now? Now, some of the most surprising discipline came from a place people rarely connect to budgeting giving. Number 5, giving first, even when it felt tight. They gave before they felt rich. Many Christian families treated giving as a priority, not an afterthought. They supported their church. They helped neighbors quietly. They contributed when someone was hurting. Sometimes it was small. Sometimes it was steady. Sometimes it was a quiet sacrifice nobody else ever saw. Giving shaped discipline. When you give on purpose, you plan on purpose. You do not accidentally spend everything and then hope generosity appears later. It also shaped the heart. A home that gives tends to grip less tightly, and gripping less tightly can make you feel calmer, even when the numbers are not perfect. You could see it in little moments. Someone sliding cash into an offering envelope, not with showiness, but with a simple confidence. Someone dropping off groceries for a family who had a rough month. Someone paying for a youth camp fee without announcing it. If this part reminds you of someone who lived like that, you can honor them right now. Hit like so more people find this kind of story, and that habit of quiet giving fit naturally into another older habit. Families were not shy about helping each other because they did not see it as failure. Number 4, family help that did not feel awkward. Support was expected, not embarrassing. Grandparents helped, and nobody acted too proud about it. An aunt watched the kid. An uncle fixed something on the weekend. Someone passed along a crib or a used table without making it feel like charity. Families leaned on each other because that was the design. Help was normal. And because it was normal, people asked sooner instead of waiting until a small issue became a crisis. A mother could get a break without paying for it. A family could borrow tools instead of buying them. A baby could sleep in a hand-me-down bassinet that still felt safe and loved. Distance changes this. Pride changes this. Modern life can make family feel far away, even when they live nearby. But back then, family systems acted like financial shock absorbers. When something unexpected happened, the fall was softer because someone caught you. And the deeper you go, the clearer the pattern becomes. This was not just budgeting, it was belief. A way of living that stayed under pressure because it had an anchor. Number 3, living under your means as a faith practice. For many Christian families, living under their means was not a clever trick. It was a faith decision, a way of resisting envy, rejecting comparison, and choosing peace on purpose. That belief showed up in everyday choices. A modest house instead of a bigger payment, a reliable car instead of a flashy one, a simple celebration instead of a costly production. They saved up, waited, repaired what still worked, and skipped what was only there to impress. You could feel the difference in the home. Less pressure in the air, less pretending, more steadiness. They were not buying a lifestyle. They were building a life that could hold a family. Quick truth: many budgets are not broken because people are careless. They are broken because normal got louder and more expensive. And once you decide your life will not be built on pressure, you stop paying for pressure. Number 2, refusing to buy a perfect image. The home was not a performance, so the budget did not have to be either. They did not treat every want like an emergency. They waited. They reused what still worked. They bought fewer things and cared for them longer. Furniture stayed for years. Appliances got repaired. Holidays stayed warm without getting expensive. Birthday parties were cake, laughter, and a crowded living room, not a production you had to recover from financially. That choice protected the home from spending just to keep up appearances. When you are not paying to maintain an image, you can breathe easier. And when you strip it down, you land on the rule underneath everything. Number 1, chasing peace more than status. Peace was the goal, and the budget followed it. Looking impressive mattered less than sleeping well at night. Families chose steadiness over strain, a smaller home instead of a heavier payment, one car instead of constant pressure, simple meals instead of costly convenience, community instead of isolation. They gave, they planned, and they avoided buying stress on purpose. Life was not easy. Work was still hard. Tough seasons still came. But they were not competing with anyone else's life. They were building one that could breathe. That is why one income went further than expected. Not because everything was cheap, but because stability mattered more than status. If this brought your parents or grandparents to mind, hold on to that for a second. Which one did your family do cash envelopes? One car, shared rooms, or fixing everything instead of replacing it? And what is the first smell you remember from that house coffee, clean laundry, supper on the stove, or that old wooden cabinet smell? If you want more of this kind of time travel, come join us, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you do not miss the next one. Next up, 25 cheap meals our Christian grandparents ate to survive.